According to new reporting, while Trump is out there on Truth Social threatening to annihilate the entire civilization of Iran, military leaders at CENTCOM are getting increasingly worried about carrying out illegal orders. So much so that they may even have been pushing back against Hegseth's request to bomb civilian targets. That and the first articles of impeachment have been filed against Pete Hegseth, and the MAGA podcast war has heightened. Megyn Kelly being the latest to be willing to outright criticize Trump and this war. My name is Dina Doll with the Midas Touch Network. Let's get into this now. First, terms of the military reporting. So a retired Army general went on MS Now and spoke with Nicole Wallace, and he said this is what he is hearing secondhand. His name is Randy Manna, and he said that he is hearing that evidently people are already saying no to the hierarchy. The CENTCOM commander is walking a very thin line where he is trying to do the best he can to implement military objectives as he understands them without getting fired, is the best way to put it. And evidently some of the requests he called it quiet resistant, that they were trying to redirect orders to go after civilian targets toward attacks on the military instead. The idea of attacking bridges that are clearly overwhelmingly for civilian use would be a war crime, and the planners and CENTCOM would not permit that, he said in this interview. So evidently, Hegseth would say, you know, we should be bombing this like when they're making their plan. And instead, the military leaders listening to his lead, they would instead say, no, would pivot and try to push them like something what you would do with a child. Basically, oh no, these are war crimes. Let's push it that way. But evidently, this is what he's saying he is hearing happening. He said, quote, so I believe that there are very subtle pushbacks that already have been occurring to go after military targets. So it's almost like instead of this one, this is the target that you should be looking at. And so this is how they are basically, these military leaders are basically handling Hegseth, because he is a Fox News anchor and has no idea about war. But war crimes, I mean, talk about The Hague. They don't care if you're a Fox News anchor or not, or talk about our own military courts, because these commanders, CENTCOM, by the way, is the command battalion center. We have 11 around the world that is for just the Middle East and parts of Asia. So they are the ones basically in charge of carrying out any of the orders that come from Trump and Hegseth. They are well aware that it is a war crime to target civilian infrastructure. This retired general who spoke in Nicole Wallace said this was why he was not worried about Trump's Truth Social post basically threatening who knows what, right? Even sounded like it could have been nuclear, because he didn't believe those orders would be carried out. Something so severe wouldn't be carried out by these military leaders, because he's saying, I'm already hearing about them, basically trying to pivot and steer them away. The Hague is a real thing. There is a real court to handle international war crimes, but we also have a domestic court. Doesn't matter who's in charge. If it's Bond, you know, no longer Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, who knows and cares for the Department of Justice. We also have military courts, and Emil members of the military were court-martialed and stood trial for the tortures that went on in Iraq and Afghanistan, despite the fact that there was a Department of Justice memo that basically said it was legal. The military said no, not so fast. According to our handbook, torture is not legal. We don't really care what you directed that person to say at the DOJ. These military leaders understand that the buck stops with them. It is illegal to carry out an illegal order. They will be up either court-martialed, or in the age, Trump and Hegseth are not going to be lasting very long. Hegseth even less so. But really stunning to even get a glimpse into this. He was clear to say he heard this secondhand, but going on national news program to talk about this, obviously the secrecy behind the military. I mean, you can't even usually criticize the president if you are serving in the military, because that is your commander-in-chief. You have to keep politics out of it. To hear even a little bit of this, perhaps leaking out, shows that perhaps they are as concerned as the rest of us as they should be. Ironically, there's actually precedent for this, and it has to do with Nixon also, because Trump took a lot from Nixon. Trump is like 1,000 times as bad as Nixon. But Nixon, he tried to cheat his way into winning his presidency. He was corrupt. He obstructed justice, and probably because he was pardoned by Ford and never stood trial is why we got Trump to begin with. But toward the end of his presidency, when it became clear that he was going to have to resign, or that his power was falling apart, the defense secretary then, more responsible, then obviously Hegseth, who was in charge, was worried about him carrying out a nuclear attack. And they had a whole plan in place that if Nixon ordered a nuclear attack, then that person who was actually like push the button would not do that without consulting either the Secretary of Defense or the Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger. They had a little plan B because they did not trust the president, because evidently, according to the Secretary of Sense, he was drinking a lot during this time. And Nixon had made a phone call to a Congress member, to a senator who said something honestly kind of similar to what Trump just said. He said, I can go in my office and pick up a telephone, and in 25 minutes, millions of people will be dead. He said this to a senator, and so the senator called the Secretary of Defense and said, we need to basically protect the world from this president, and this is how they came up with this Plan B. That obviously statement was awful, but that Trump social statement, this is why we're calling, so many of us, or so many people are calling for the 25th Amendment, because it is such an extreme statement, and you hope whoever's in charge of those nuclear codes has a Plan B like Nixon. You don't really want to just hope here. This is why it is so important also that this articles of impeachment with Pete Hegseth, because Pete Hegseth is in charge. He's the head of the guy of that military, and if he's asking the people who are serving our military to commit war crimes, he should be impeached. The articles of impeachment were filed by the one person who really understands this, because she's the one congressperson from Iran, Yassamin Ansari from Arizona, and she had this to say about the articles of impeachment. What we have seen out of the Trump administration over this weekend has been absolutely horrifying and gut-wrenching. The threats against Iranian civilian infrastructure in the entire country of Iran are unreal and apocalyptic. Today, Donald Trump said, quote, the entire country could be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night. That was his quote. Iran is a country of 90 million people. Threatening them with annihilation is a monstrous war crime and puts them and American service members and Americans at grave risk. It also only serves the interests of the Islamic Republic regime, further entrenching their power, providing them with a convenient boogeyman while punishing the civilian population. As a chief enabler of this illegal war, Pete Hegseth is responsible for directing this insane military action against Iran, which has already killed thousands of civilians, led to the unnecessary deaths of American service members, and displaced over 1 million people in the region. That's why I'm introducing articles of impeachment against Hegseth for repeatedly violating his oath of office and the Constitution, including the disregard of Congress and willful targeting of civilian infrastructure in Iran, like water desalination plants, like hospitals, like schools and bridges. As the top official in the Department of War, Pete Hegseth has the duty to comply with the laws, lead by example for other military officials, and uphold his commitment to the Constitution above all else. He has done none of that. Instead, he has trampled on the most fundamental principles upon which the United States was founded upon, including the separation of powers, congressional oversight, and respect for the rule of law. That's why I'm calling for Pete Hegseth's impeachment and removal from office immediately. Small cat food is protein-packed recipes made with preservative-free ingredients you'd find in your fridge, and it's delivered right to your door. That's why Cats.com named Smalls their best overall cat food. Now, I tried to get my cat in this ad because every time I turn on the camera, she usually always tries to get in the view. I always say I think she's trying to go viral, but you know how cats are. The minute you want them to do something, they do the exact opposite. Now, starting with Smalls is easy. Just share info about your cat's diet, health, and food preferences. Then, Smalls puts together a personalized sampler for your cat. No more picking between random brands at the store. Smalls has the right food to satisfy any cat's craving. Still not a believer in Smalls? Forbes ranked Smalls the best overall cat food, while BuzzFeed said my cats went completely ballistic for this stuff. For me, I have to also give my cat medicine. And when I put it on top of Smalls, she ate it right up. After switching to Smalls, 88% of cat owners reported overall health improvements. That's a big deal. And the team at Smalls is so confident your cat will love their product. Then you can try it risk-free. That means they will refund you if your cat won't eat their food. So, make 2026 your cat's healthiest year yet. For a limited time, because you are a Mistrial listener, get 60% off your first order, plus free shipping when you head to smalls.com Mistrial. One last time, that's 60% off your first order plus free shipping when you head to smalls.com /Mistral. I mean, Hegseth has just been war crime after war crime. From the boats in the Caribbean at illegal war with illegal strikes, the double tap specific strike of the survivors of the boat clear war crime, to all the many threats of war crimes Trump has had, and the killing of the children at the school, over 150 school children, despite the fact that Google images clearly showed it was a school. The bombing of the bridge, clear war crimes. With Hegseth in charge, he has to go. Now, it's not just Democrats saying how awful this is. However, this is the stunning part. You now have Megyn Kelly joining this. I mean, Megyn Kelly went as far as basically to defend pedophilia if it was somebody who was 15 years old not that long ago in order to defend Trump. Made a complete 360 when it comes now to Trump talking about this war and now even talking about his attack on her all those years. It seemed like she had completely forgotten it. The reason why this is so important, not because Megyn Kelly specifically, obviously, but polling shows that a lot of MAGA is still supposedly supportive of Trump. But the fact is, a lot of people don't call themselves MAGA anymore. So that in itself is an inaccurate type of poll, and the podcast is in the right-wing field. I mean, we have said it over and over. Democrats were late to that table. That's why Midas Touch is so amazing. It's growing because we were late to the table as Democrats. Podcasters on the right wing influence their voters quite a bit. And so they may not have completely trickled down to all their voters. Even if, let's say, the polling is correct, they haven't maybe trickled down yet. But that's the key thing. It is yet because the Tucker Carlsons of this world and the Megyn Kellys of this world have a Republican audience. And so when they start being willing to speak against Trump, maybe there will be some Republicans who will grow a spine and be willing to speak against Trump. I mean, I don't know about you, but I am sick of this. I'm sick of it. Can't he just behave like a normal human? I mean, honestly, like the President 3D chess, just shut up. Shut up about that. You don't threaten to wipe out an entire civilization. We're talking about civilians. Come the midterms. It's not even just about getting out the House to impeach him. It's about the fact that it will be clear as day he's a lame duck president. And perhaps some of these spineless Republicans can do something like have Mike Johnson call back the Capitol. I was here in DC completely empty on vacation in the middle of Trump's Truth Social post, trying to wage this war crime against the civilization. The least he could have done is come back because Congress is the one who has the power to declare a war. The Constitution wanted to make that clear because they wanted the people to decide when to wage war. If